Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beersmith Podcast number 44. We got a great show for you today. We got Gary Glass coming in from the American Homebrewers Association. Just a quick announcement. Again, Beersmith 2.1 is out and beersmithrecipes.com. Now over 2,500 public recipes there, over 12,000 recipes altogether. And you can find your favorite recipes at beersmithrecipes.com. Now, without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. Today, my guest is Gary Glass. He's the director of the American Homebrewers Association. He's coming to us from Boulder, Colorado. Gary has been at the AHA for 12 years, and he's been the director for the last 6 years. He's been a homebrewer since 1992. You can find the AHA website at homebrewersassociation.org. Gary, it's great to have you on the show.
Great to be on the show. Thanks, Brad.
Really appreciate you being here. I was wondering if you could start by maybe just telling us a little bit about the AHA and what it does for homebrewers.
Sure. The American Homebrewers Association has been around since 1978. It was founded by Charlie Papazian and Charlie Matson, and it's primarily aimed at providing educational materials for homebrewers. So we publish Zymergy magazine, which is a member benefit, as well as the new eZymergy. So now our members can get access to past issues of Zymergy online. We plan on going back to the 2000 issues by the end of this year. So a huge amount of content available at homebrewers.
You're gonna have every issue all the way back to the year 2000?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
wow.
the plan.
That's fantastic.
Yes, all searchable. So it's an excellent resource, and that's available to anybody who's a member. And then we also have our AHA forum, and then we put on events like the National Homebrew Competition, which is the world's largest beer competition.
Love the National Homebrew Competition.
Yeah, I had almost 8,000 entries this year.
Love the conference.
That was huge. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the National Homebrewers Conference. We had 1,800 people in Seattle for this year's conference. Was just a enormously fun time. Whenever you get that many homebrewers together, you can't help but have fun. But we had over 30 seminars available for people to attend, as well as all the fun social events that go along with the conference. And then we also work on protecting homebrewing rights. So we've been working with homebrewers in Alabama and Mississippi to legalize homebrewing in those two states. Those are the last two states where it's not yet legal to homebrew. And we also work with homebrewers in states that have homebrewing rights issues. So in the past couple of years, we've worked with homebrewers in Oregon and Wisconsin on bills to change their laws to allow them to transport their homebrew for things like club meetings and homebrew competitions.
Which is really important. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, here in the U.S., brewing became legal again in most states around 1979. I was wondering if you could just share with us a little bit about the early history. You mentioned Charlie Papazian started the AHA, but maybe talk a little bit about how it all got started.
Well, the AHA got started by Charlie Papazian, who was a teacher in Boulder at the time, teaching kindergarten. And he, as a kind of a side project, he was also teaching classes at the Boulder Free University on homebrewing, and had been doing that for a while, and had created a pamphlet for what is now the Complete Joy of Homebrewing that he was using, and he and his friend Charlie Matson had this crazy idea, like, why don't we create a national organization for homebrewers? And there wasn't a whole lot of homebrewers back then.
No, this was right at the beginning, right? When was the AHA founded?
The AHA was founded December 7th, 1978. That was the day that the first issue of Zymergy came off the printer.
Wow, and that's the same year that the law passed, right?
Right, the law had passed in October.
Wow.
Of 78, and didn't go into effect till February 1st, 1979. So it was still actually illegal federally to brew when the AHA was founded.
Amazing. So how did Charlie? So Charlie just started doing this on his own, huh? Yeah.
I mean, he and well, it wasn't just him. He had some volunteers that were helping out with the organization. But for a long time, it was pretty much all volunteer run, and he wasn't taking any money from it at first, and then a couple of years in, they hired an employee, and then it's grown since then.
One of the things I was surprised to learn is how small the organization is in terms of full-time employees. I mean, it's still staffed heavily by volunteers. How many full-time employees do you have?
Full-time, we have, there's 4 of us. There's myself, the director, and Catherine Porter-Drapo is our events and membership coordinator. Janice Gross is our project coordinator. Janice works primarily on National Homebrew Competition. Kate primarily on the Homebrewers Conference would be the 2 big things that they work on. Steve Parr is our business coordinator. The cool thing that he does is he adds businesses to our AHA member deals program. So the people who give discounts to AHA members, that's one of the things that he focuses on. We also have, half-time, we have Jill Redding, the editor of Zymergy magazine. So the other half of her time is spent editing the New Brewer, which is a Brewers Association professional division magazine. And
so with that small group, you have how many members now?
Almost 33,000 now.
Wow. So it's a pretty big organization, 33,000 members.
It is. It's definitely the biggest it's been ever in the history of the AHA.
Well, how's the AHA overall organized and governed? I know for example, there's a governing committee. How does that work?
Yeah, that's right. We have a 15-member elected governing committee. So the governing committee provides a lot of the ideas for what we as an organization should be doing. So, for example, we launched homebrewersassociation.org new website for the AHA in 2009, and that was the brainchild of the governing committee, as well as the AHA forum that we now have. Mm-hmm. The idea for the pub discount program came from the governing committee. So a lot of the things that we do come from ideas from those members of the governing committee. In addition to the governing committee itself, the governing committee has several subcommittees that work on specific areas, like we have a competition subcommittee. Mm-hmm. We have an industry subcommittee that's primarily focused on retailers, wholesalers, and that part of the homebrewing industry, and several others that are focused on particular areas of homebrewing.
Well, one of the interesting things I found is how does the AHA actually interact and support homebrewing clubs? Because I know you do a lot with various homebrewing clubs around the country.
Sure. One of the things we do is we have our club resources wiki, which is linked to our website, which provides a place where homebrew clubs can upload information about their clubs, their club events, and so forth, that can then be shared with other clubs. We run the club only competitions. So every other month, we do a competition with a specific style that clubs from across the nation can enter. And that gives the clubs something to focus on in a meeting, focus on a particular style, to have their members brew, and then they send a winning beer off to the club only competition. So they're, again, educational opportunity. And then our Club of the Year award and Gambrinus Club Awards are a way of recognizing clubs that are making superior beers. And that takes place through the club only competitions and the National Homebrew Competition.
Right, and that's given out at the National Homebrewers Conference, which is actually the next topic I wanted to talk about. I was wondering if you could just talk for a few minutes about what goes on at the National Homebrewers Conference. I know it's really your big event of the year, and I really enjoyed the last one at up in Seattle. That was fantastic.
The Homebrewers Conference is something that's been going on since 1979. Less than a year from the founding, we had our first National Homebrew Competition, National Homebrewers Conference. I think there were something like 32 entries in that first 34 maybe entries in that first year. It's grown substantially since then.
Yeah.
Actually, last year's in 2011 in San Diego was the biggest conference we'd ever had, with just over 1,900 people. The conference is a huge event, and so we have to plan it years ahead. And so I signed the contract for the 2012 conference in 2010, having no idea that we were going to see over 50% growth.
Right. I mean, this year,
2011.
You had about 1,800, but I think you sold out in 36 hours or something. I mean, there's hundreds of people on the waiting list, right?
Yes. It was less than 48 hours. I know that. It was something we've never experienced before, was having the conference sell out that quickly. But the conference itself, like I was saying earlier, it's a really fun event.
Absolutely.
Just by the nature of having all these homebrewers in one place. And then we have the educational seminars, which are led by, a lot of people from professional brewers, homebrewers that have a particular expertise, suppliers like yeast suppliers, malt suppliers, people like you, Brad.
I spoke at the last one.
It's fast. So, a lot of opportunity to learn more about homebrewing. And then we have an exhibitor hospitality area, where you can see the wares of various, homebrew equipment suppliers, retailer.
That was much larger this year, too. It looked like it was almost twice as large as the one we had in San Diego.
Almost. We had 37 vendors in the exhibit hall this year, somewhere a little over 20 last year. So yeah, we had substantial growth there, and continuing to get more interest in that, which is great. And as we move to larger and larger venues, that's easier for us to accommodate more of those vendors. So get to see a lot of equipment that is really coming available, or even before it's available to buy at the conference, and then a chance to interact with the malt manufacturers, yeast manufacturers, so you can get questions answered directly from the source. And then in that exhibitor hospitality suite, we have homebrew clubs rotating through, serving their beers. So there's always homebrew available throughout the conference. So that's a great aspect to it. And then the evening events. Usually on Thursday we do some kind of commercial brewery event.
Pro Brewers Night, right?
I think we had over 40 different breweries that were serving their beer to our attendees. So it's like a private beer festival, just for exclusively for attendees. I remember a comment that when Sam Calgione from Dogfish Head made was he said it was the highest beer IQ beer festival he had ever been to, and it's true. It's all the people who are attending are homebrewers. Where else do you see a beer festival with people who are so intimately knowledgeable?
Know so much about beer, yeah.
And then, of course, because of that, the brewers usually want to, send somebody from their staff that really knows something about the beers. So a lot of chance to interact, taste the beers and interact with the staff of the brewery to get to know how they make what they do.
And then Friday night, my favorite.
Friday night is always the favorite event, club night. It's kind of like a beer festival, except it's all homebrew clubs that are serving their beer, but not just serving their beer. They go all out and create elaborate booths with particular themes
costumes.
based on what what their club is about, or the region that they're from, and then serving all kinds of beers.
One of my favorites this year was the ones that actually cut their hair like monks. They actually cut their hair like a bowl cut all the way around, and then cut the whole top of their head off, or the hair out of the top. That was just incredible. And they're all dressed up like monks.
That was definitely
over the top.
One for the team for that team. The Ghostbusters guys were really pretty creative too, and having beer served out of one of those Ghostbusters phasers.
Yeah, they were roving around serving beer out of the
creative
guns.
Yeah, and actually this year, I think the club's really stepped it up a notch. The level of creativity was beyond what I've seen in. Oh, I think this was my 13th conference. So and the fact that most of those clubs were from the Washington area and had never been to a conference previously. We've never been to Washington before. Mm-hmm. That was just particularly impressive about this year's conference, was just how elaborate they went with their setups. But and
then Saturday night, of course, you move into the banquet, and then the National Homebrewing Awards, which I was hoping you could talk a little bit maybe about how we get to the National Home. What all the things that happen actually to make the National Homebrewing Awards happen. How it sort of leads up from smaller competitions all the way up.
Right. So the national the Saturday night we do the banquet and the award ceremony for the National Homebrew Competition. The banquet for the past several years. We've had homebrew chef Sean Paxton involved in the recipe design, and it's really it's pretty extraordinary the quality of food that we get. Most hotel food you're familiar with.
I had Sean on the show about a year ago. So if anybody's listening can go back and pull up that episode. But he talks about how he mixes the food flavors and the beer flavors sort of all into one, and then puts it all together into a multi-course meal. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, usually at events or at hotels, you get the kind of cardboard chicken type of thing.
Yeah.
But having Sean involved, it's really he comes up with a top-notch dinner for. We had over 1,200 people in the room this year, which is extraordinary. And every dish has beer as an ingredient in the dish, and is also paired with a beer. And the beers are all provided by Rogue Ales, which has been a longtime sponsor of the National Homebrewers Conference. Mm-hmm. And so, after that fabulous meal, then we jump right into the National Homebrew Competition Awards. So we have 84 awards, first, second, and third place in all of the 28 categories of the competition. And so that's 84 awards out of 7,996 entries in this year's competition. So
there's several rounds leading up to that, right? There's several rounds that the competitors go through.
Well, we have our first round, which was held at 11 different sites around the U.S. and Canada, and then the first, second, and third from each of those in each of the 28 categories in that first round get sent on to the final round of the National Homebrew Competition, and they're judged there at the National Homebrewers Conference. So around 800 entries get judged at the conference, and then we have those awards. And like I said, those 84 awards out of almost 8,000 entries. If you win a medal, you're absolutely making the best beer in the world.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
And it's great to see like the intensity of the people who are winning those medals. It means so much to them, and rightfully so. It's an extraordinary accomplishment. And then beyond just the medals, we also have the cider maker of the year, which is the best of show in the two cider categories, the mead maker of the year, best of show in 3 mead categories, and then the homebrewer of the year, it's the best in show of the 23 beer categories. We have a Ninkasi Award, which is the overall winner brewer in the competition, and then our Homebrew Club of the Year, which goes to the club that accumulates the most points through wins in the National Homebrew Competition, as well as the club-only competitions. And then a Gambrinus Club Award, which is an award based on the medals earned by a club, but also based on the number of entries they have. Mm-hmm. So it's the winningest club per entry in the competition.
Right. Well, I before we move on to another topic, I wanted to ask where and when the next one is, because I think that's really important.
Yeah, so next year we are going to be back on the East Coast for the first time since 2005. We'll be in Philadelphia June 27th through the 29th. And we have a much bigger venue this time.
So how many can you take this time?
At least 2,500.
Great.
I think might be able to get up to 2,800. So almost 1,000 more people than we had this year. But that said, I do think that, being on the East Coast, being in downtown Philadelphia.
Yeah, very centrally located.
Demand is going to be very high. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we sell out again this year.
And when does, this is also important, when does registration actually open? Because I've had people already asking me that.
Yes, registration will start in early February. I believe it's February 5th. It's the first Tuesday in February is the date we had set aside to launch registration.
Important that you get signed up early.
Very important. I guarantee that there are more people who want to go than are going to go. That's the way it is. We, like I said earlier, we booked the venues far in advance. It's becoming a challenge for us to find venues that are going to be
large enough.
Yeah, they can accommodate, up to 3,000, maybe 4,000. Who knows where we're going to go in the future? Accommodate that many people and yet be affordable. I mean, we're a hobbyist organization and recognize that people are paying their own way. So it's very important to us to keep the room rates down and the overall cost of the conference down. So that's been a challenge for our staff and the governing committee to figure out how we address the growth that we've had with the conference.
Well, that sort of leads into the next topic I want to discuss, which is, every year I participated in sort of the vendor subcommittee, and we discussed the state of homebrewing as an industry. And homebrewing as an industry has shown some incredible growth the last couple of years. And I was wondering if you could just share with us a little bit. I know you collect statistics on this, so I was hoping you could share maybe how large the industry has gotten and how fast it's growing.
Sure. It's been really impressive since we started surveying home retailers just a few years ago. We saw in 2009 growth of 16% at the homebrew retail level. Mm-hmm. 2010, 16%, and then 2011, 20%. Wow. And that's for shops as a whole. When we look at the shops that are just selling homebrew supplies, as opposed to like the hardware store that happens to sell some homebrew supplies as well, mm-hmm. that number goes up to 24% growth.
Wow, 24% growth in a down economy too.
Right,
pretty incredible.
The AHA grew by 26% in 2011. So, wow. Seeing that kind of growth in this economy is extraordinary.
Well, homebrewing's kind of an attractive hobby, really, from a lot of perspectives. It's not terribly expensive to get into, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time either. So I think it is something you can do even in a down economy.
Right, and it's a lot of fun. So once you get into it, you get hooked, and so.
So I think you had some numbers the other day on how big the homebrewing market is, just out of the groups that reported. How big was that number? It's pretty big, if I remember.
The number of shops, you mean, or
the number of shops, and I think you had like a dollar figure roughly, or what?
Oh, right, yeah. So we've now got 764 shops in our database. So based on what we were seeing previously, our numbers weren't all that accurate. It's just been within the past couple of years that we've really focused on trying to maintain solid numbers for that, but impression is certainly that it's been growing probably at about that double-digit rate that we've been seeing. And in terms of the overall market for homebrewing, based on this year's survey, I would say we're a little over $300 million at the retail level for homebrewing in general. That's
pretty substantial industry, and that's only the ones that are reported, right?
Well, no, that would be an estimate for
overall
industry overall. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, the AHA is a division of the Brewers Association, which is also focused on craft beer. And I was wondering if you'd tell us a little bit about the Brewers Association and how they relate back to the Homebrewers Association, and maybe even just a couple words about the Great American Beer Fest, which you also host as part of the Brewers Association.
Sure. The the American Homebrewers Association is a division of the Brewers Association. The Brewers Association also includes a membership division for commercial craft brewers, the BA professional division. We have an events department that organizes the Craft Brewers Conference, our Savor event in Washington, D.C., and the big event, Great American Beer Festival.
Which is in Colorado every year, right?
Yeah, and it's in Denver at the Colorado Convention Center. We will have 49,000 people go through the hall over course of 4 sessions. Over 500 breweries this year, the most breweries we've ever had. It's an extraordinary, unique event, and it's a lot of fun.
And that's held in September, if I recall, right?
Right. Yes. Let me
coming up next month.
Actually, no, it's in October this year.
October, okay.
So October. Let me look at my calendar on my wall. 11th through the 13th.
Okay. So I mean, the BA and the American Homebrewers Association, though, I mean, you work things together, obviously, because there's a lot of people that cross over between pro brewers and homebrewers. A lot of pro brewers I talk to start out as homebrewers, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. The majority of the professional brewers out there, probably at least 90% of the people who actually make their living brewing beer, got started as homebrewers, and certainly the majority of people who are opening breweries these days are homebrewers. So yeah, a lot of crossover. We at the Great American Beer Festival, we have the GABF Pro-Am competition, which is take an award-winning homebrew recipe from an AHA member, scale that up on a commercial system, brew it at the brewery, and then submit the commercially brewed version of that into the competition. And then we have gold, silver, and bronze medals to award to both the commercial brewery and the home brewer.
Very cool.
So it's a really cool event, and the breweries have really gotten into it. So we've actually gotten more entries attempted to be submitted than we actually have spots available for those entries to be judged. So that goes to show just how popular that's become.
Well, you talked up front about legislation and your active role in trying to promote pro homebrewer legislation, if you will. I was wondering if you could just share maybe an example of one of your recent successes, and also talk about some areas that we're still working on.
Sure. An example of success would be earlier this year we had a bill passed in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So what happened in Wisconsin is almost identical to what had happened in Oregon the previous year. What they found was there was a group of homebrewers who had been participating in a local beer festival for several years. They've been pouring their beer at the beer festival, and then one of the event organizers decided that he better make sure that what they were doing was legal, and they checked in with the Wisconsin Liquor Control Commission and found that actually no, it's not legal to serve homebrew at a beer festival. In fact, that's true almost universally. Like there are only 3 states that I know of where you can legally serve homebrew at a beer festival.
Yeah, so if I understand that right, it's where you can't serve beer where you charge like a cover charge, right? You can't serve homebrewed beer if you charge like a cover charge for the festival or something like that, right?
Exactly. The state alcohol control agency is going to see that as a sale of alcohol, and so because it's unlicensed and untaxed, you cannot sell it.
Right.
It is what it is. It's not the way it should be, but that is the case in just about every state out there. I'm also finding that in just about every state out there are homebrewers who are serving beer at beer festivals. So, but we see this 25% growth in the hobby. It's becoming more and more visible. And so it's not as easy to fly under the radar. And so very similar situation happened in Oregon the previous year, where it became apparent that homebrew was being served at this event. And then they looked at their laws a little more closely and decided, hey, well, this law that was probably written in 1933 when Prohibition was repealed allows for beer and wine to be made at home for personal consumption in the home.
Mm-hmm.
The Wisconsin bill is actually very specific about it being exclusively served at the residence.
So, I mean, you couldn't even, in theory, drag it to a homebrew club meeting, right?
Right. And so, thankfully, Wisconsin is a very beer-friendly state. So we were, we did have some hurdles on the way, but we were able to get a bill largely based off of the previous year's bill in Oregon passed in Wisconsin. That's very, quite extensive in allowing very specifically homebrew to be served at homebrew club meetings, at competitions, at events, at beer festivals. Pretty much do anything that homebrewers are currently doing anywhere in the United States.
So you mentioned the two challenge states, though, the two we're working on right now, Mississippi and Alabama. Can you talk a little bit about making any progress in those? I mean, those are the two states that you can't legally brew at home.
In Alabama, we've been working. I've been working with homebrewers there for I think it's about 5 or 6 years now. It's been a slow process. The southern states can be substantially more challenging than a state like Oregon or Wisconsin that have a substantial craft beer community.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that in Alabama and Mississippi. And what they do have is they have a large population of people who would prefer to see it entirely illegal to drink alcohol at all.
Mm-hmm.
So any legislation involving alcohol is to some certain degree a political hot potato, and something that a lot of legislatures would just prefer not to touch. But we've made substantial progress in educating legislators about what homebrewing is about, what this bill to legalize homebrewing is about, and to the extent that we actually had a bill that was passed by the House this past year
in Alabama, right?
In Alabama, and passed the Senate committee, was ready to go before a vote before the full Senate. As far as we can tell, we had the votes lined up to pass the bill, but the legislative session ran out before the bill could be called for a vote.
Ran out of time, huh?
Yeah. So this year, the plan for 2013 a legislative session is to have a bill introduced in both the House and the Senate at the beginning of the session, which will give us substantially more time to get the bill through. And Alabama doesn't have an election this year, so same legislators, we have the same sponsors, same bill language. So there's no reason at this time to believe that there will be any that we won't be able to pass it. So very enthusiastic about our chances for Alabama.
Fantastic.
In Mississippi, we've had bills introduced the past couple of years. This year, the bills never made it to even a committee vote. But we've been working with an organization called Raise Your Pints, which is an organization based on promoting craft beer in general.
Mm-hmm.
They had a success this year in getting the allowable alcohol in beer served and produced in the state passed this year. That was their big issue for 2012. So 2013, their big issue is homebrewing, and so they believe that they're on the right course to get their bill sponsored by the right people that will be able to get through committee and hopefully get to a vote. So, given that we just had a pro beer bill passed in Mississippi, I think our chances are much better than they had been previously. So, we're hopeful on Mississippi. And then there are a number of other states where we've seen things like what's happened in Wisconsin and Oregon, particularly in Illinois. There was 2 beer festivals that I'm aware of that were told they couldn't serve beer, and the response from the Illinois Liquor Control Commission was essentially that the law states that it's for homebrew is only for personal use, I've tried repeatedly to get a hold of the Illinois Liquor Control Commission and have not yet gotten any kind of clarification on that. So we're looking at least getting some clarification from a state legislator
Sure.
who presumably is going to get a better response from the Liquor Control Commission than I can get. But the term personal use is used by federal law, and that incorporates use in organized affairs. The law is pretty vague in Illinois, so it's really up to their interpretation. If they want to say that it's just for consumption in the home, then I would say we're going to need to pursue legislation in Illinois
again. Yeah. So, and I assume, as you mentioned, these are popping up all over. So we're going to have to just a battle we're going to have to continue to fight.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bill come through in Kansas next year as well.
Well, Gary, you can become an AHA member for only $38, it looks like, today. And I've been a member for quite some time, but you can go to homebrewersassociation.org to do that. But I was wondering if you could just tell everybody out there, give us a 2-minute pitch on, why they should join the AHA.
Sure. Well, like I mentioned, the educational materials that you get, subscription to Zymergy magazine, access to over a decade worth of the magazine online now for members. You get our pub discount program. Well, actually, we just changed the name of the pub discount program to AHA member deals, and we've incorporated not only brew pubs and beer bars, but also now homebrew retailers that are giving discounts to members of the American Homebrewers Association. Have over 650 locations now that are giving discounts to members, and that's been growing quite rapidly over the past couple of years. So even more coming on to that program, discounts on National Homebrew Competition entries, exclusive access to the National Homebrewers Conference, and access to purchase tickets for the members only session of the Great American Beer Festival and members only line at the Great American Beer Festival, provided that you get your tickets early enough to actually get into.
Yeah, you mentioned they're sold out already this year, but
yep. Yeah, all of our events seem to be selling out.
That's a good problem to have, right?
It's a good problem to have, but of course we would like to be able to accommodate as many as many of our members as we can at our events. It's logistically very challenging when the events get as big as they are. But there are those things, and then of course you're supporting an organization that supports homebrewing in general through education on our website that's available to anybody. Support for homebrew retailers, and then our legislative activities.
Well, thank you, Gary. I was wondering, is there anything else you'd like to add?
The thing I would like to add is, if you're a homebrewer out there, I take it upon yourself to bring somebody else into the fold. Don't keep your hobby hidden.
I didn't mention it, but you do have a Learn to Homebrew Day coming up. Maybe just say just a couple words about that here at the end.
Sure. Learn to Homebrew Day is it's always held on the first Saturday in November, so it is November 3rd this year, and so that's a kind of an opportunity to, as a community, participate in bringing in a friend or family member who's not yet a homebrewer. Take them to your local shop, buy your ingredients, and then show them how to brew. I always suggest a simple extract batch just to get people familiar with just how easy it is to brew beer at home. Certainly share some of your homebrew with them so they can get that it's actually very good quality. But yeah, the more people that we get into the hobby, the more business the local retail shop has. More business they have, the better ingredients and equipment that they can afford to provide to their customers. The faster turnover they have, the fresher the ingredients are, the more people that are potential members of homebrew clubs. So we can only make it better by bringing more people into the hobby.
Well, thank you, Gary. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed being on.
It's fantastic having Gary Glass on the show. He's the director of the American Homebrewers Association. And you can find their website as well as sign up for the AHA at homebrewersassociation.org. Well, a big thank you to Gary Glass, the director of the American Homebrewers Association, for doing that outstanding interview. A reminder for you, if you want to get articles on beer brewing sent to your inbox every week, just join our newsletter at beersmith.com. I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great brewing week.